community's existence, problems existence, and relationships existence. The question itself sounds a little funny. The correct answer is men's existence. Actually, it should have been human. The person probably thought human existence, but they have framed it. See, anybody can choose relationship existence is also equally valid. Community's existence. So this is what MCQs can do. Another question is slavery is emerges from political need, economic need, customs, and religion, a social need. Now these are all subject to interpretation. So please, we affirm categorically that MCQs don't contribute to either objectivity or they are not a foolproof method just because of the form. You can ask stupid questions there. And wordings can be ambiguous. Second, they also lead to nepotism because you can, one particular institution, anybody can choose input questions from one particular set of texts that they have taught. And that will automatically eliminate people, other institutions where other set of texts are taught. If you say, I will correct the problem by standardizing the curriculum, then there are only this many questions in MCQ form that can be asked. We are asked to set 100 or 200 questions. In 2 years, the same 200 questions will be asked every year. So the coaching classes can help students to memorize it. So if you standardize the curriculum, it will be repetitive. If you don't standardize the curriculum, it will lead to nepotism. Either way, MCQs are not as foolproof as we think. So we are not criticizing everything about CUET, are not open to change. We are open to change, we are open to think and work because actually CUET, MCQs will help us. We don't need to correct anything, we don't need to correct lengthy answers. It will increase our workload to opt out of CUET. Yet we want to stay opt out in the interest of academic excellence. So we are open to developing a composite template for PhD entrance where MCQs can be included as part of passages. You give a passage and ask comprehension, that way MCQs will work, but still they should remain within 30%. You can have short answers, some essays. We can develop, it's not an impossible task. And lastly, the machine interface. When you said they say machine leads to objectivity, standardization. But if you are facing the computer and having to quickly set questions then and there can be greater number of errors and ambiguities. Whereas when it is set with a committee of colleagues, the errors and other subjectivities can be eliminated. So this as far as social sciences are concerned.
I invite Professor Devashish Ghoshal to speak about MCQ and sciences.
Hello, good afternoon. I've been involved with exams at the national level for close to 25 years, not just in JNU but also elsewhere. And I teach physics, so my experience is mostly based on physics exams. So I make three main points. One is that it's commonly believed, it's a misconception, that science is an objective discipline. There is a unique answer, especially for hard sciences like physics and mathematics, there is a unique answer. So there should not be any problem with an MCQ exam. You ask the question, out of the few choices, there is only one answer, and you take that and you will be able to select the best candidate. This is completely false because what is important is not the answer itself, but how a person, a student, is going about getting to that answer. It's the journey which is more important to assess. And some of you may remember that you learned about Pythagoras theorem in school. And you may have come across several proofs of the Pythagoras theorem that are given. I mean, you can just go to the internet and Google also, you find that there are many different proofs of the same theorem, which people came up with at different times and the different approaches to the same problem. In physics, for example, Newton's laws, Newton came up with them in the 17th century, then in the 18th century there was reformulation by Lagrange and others, and in the 19th century finally there was yet another reformulation by Hamilton, and all these are equally valid and useful in understanding problems today. One of the most successful theories in physics is quantum mechanics, and there are, right at the birth of quantum mechanics, there are two different, complementary and completely different approaches to quantum mechanics that were developed. And about 50 years after that, Richard Feynman, one of the most charismatic physicists ever probably, he came up with a different formulation of quantum mechanics, and people use all these three different approaches to solve the problem. I don't know much about biology and chemistry, but there the situations are even more fluid, because it's not that there is always a unique agreement to a definite problem in these disciplines. For example, if you want to synthesize a chemical, there may be more than one method, and it depends. None of them could be correct in the sense that quote unquote correct, in the sense that it depends on the situation, what is your purpose, where you want to make this chemical and to what purpose, and how much resources you have, at what scale you want to produce it, what is the consequence of this, what are the byproducts. These are all important questions. So it's not that there is a unique answer to a problem even in science. So that's the way. Secondly, the second point that I have here is about MCQs that tend to become increasingly pedantic, complicated, and go into more and more obscure aspect of a subject. A case in point is the IIT entrance exam, which now is held in two parts. The general exam, which is mostly based on the school curriculum, NCERT test, and the second is a more specialized advanced year. I have actually very strong views, and I can go on about the IIT exam, which I am not going to. But if you analyze, or if you ask somebody to look at the question papers of IIT JEE advanced exam over the last several decades, you will see that it has become more and more complex, and you need to have specialized training to do well in this exam. Just being a good student is not enough. You need to have actually trained to answer this question for several reasons. Time is one, and also the way the questions are formulated, the things that are being tested, you really need a very specialized knowledge. For that reason, we see that students go into these coaching factories as early as from 7th standard, 6th standard, and continue until they get into IIT or don't get into IIT, by which time they are burnt out, and these coaching factories are laughing off into that. This is a general problem with all MCQ type exams, is that they spawn coaching factories, which is in nobody's interest for actually good assessment of students. The last point is that in science it's true that it's a little easier, all said and done. It's still a little easier to go down the MCQ path. And one reason that we have had to take MCQ route in science is lack of manpower and compulsion because of the very large number of students we have to have. And this is true of all disciplines, but it's in science it was adopted earlier because of the larger numbers. Again, there are other issues that why should we lack manpower, why should there be lack of funds, when this is something that we are talking about all the time, that we should be emphasizing to take us to the next level and compete with the best at the global scale. Keeping that aside, so these are the reasons that MCQ has been favored, and already Rohit mentioned this. One of the exams that is held nationwide is the CSIR AGC NET GRF exam, which selects students to give them a fellowship for 5 years to conduct research in the science subjects. And this exam has evolved from an all essay type question in which typically physics problems were asked and they were evaluated. Students had to actually work out the problem and write the solution in detail, and that was evaluated, to a format in which we had a part MCQ, which was used as a threshold for checking part C, which was only problem based, and finally a complete MCQ of both the parts. And it was found, as Rohit mentioned, that as a control, while this transition was happening, as a control, it was checked whether there is a correlation between the performance in the objective, the so-called objective part of MCQ, and the so-called subjective part of problem solving. and it was found that the correlation is rather weak. Those who are doing well in the objective questions are not necessarily the ones who are doing well in the subjective questions, and vice versa. So it was because of, again, this compulsion of large numbers, it was decided that the whole exam will be only MCQ, but this threshold of eliminating questions based on one part, that has been removed. Now the entire set is evaluated. So that is all I have to say.
I invite Rohit to come back with the academic calendar.
So we go in more details on this, but this is just to show you what the reality currently is. The usual semester in JNU used to be of 18 weeks, both the semesters, the monsoon and the details are July 23rd to December 5th. This is how the semester used to be, which was called the monsoon semester, and the winter semester again